My name is Grace Walker, and I'm 35 years old. I used to think I had everything: love, stability, a husband who adored me, and a little home that always smelled of fresh coffee and maple candles. I thought my life was peaceful, quiet, and good. But peace can be a dangerous thing. It can make you forget how easy it is to destroy it all with one foolish choice. I never thought I'd be the kind of woman who'd cheat. I was raised to believe love was sacred, something you protect, not something you play with. But sometimes, life doesn't break you with one big event. It breaks you slowly, piece by piece, until one day you look in the mirror and can't even recognize who you are anymore. If you're listening to me right now, tell me, where are you watching from? Because I want to know if you've ever made a mistake so big that it changed everything. Have you ever tried to fix something, only to make it worse? This is the story of how I blocked my wife during my secret affair trip, and when I got home, she was gone forever. I destroyed us. Yes, you heard me right. I blocked my wife. Not because I hated her. Not because she did anything wrong. But because I was afraid. Afraid she'd find out where I really was. It happened on a Thursday morning in October. The air was cold in Toronto, and the streets were covered with yellow leaves. I remember sitting in my car, my hands shaking as I typed her name on my phone. Amanda Walker. My wife. My best friend. The person who knew me better than I knew myself. And then I pressed block. It was supposed to be temporary. Just for the weekend. Just long enough for me to clear my mind. But that single action, the moment my finger touched that screen, was the beginning of the end. When I came home 3 days later, Amanda was gone. Not just gone to her mom's. Not just mad. Gone as in gone forever. Her clothes were gone. Her art supplies gone. Even the photo of us from our wedding day, the one she said she'd never take down, was missing from the living room wall. And all that was left behind was a note. But before I tell you what the note said, let's go back. To the beginning of this story. To when everything was still okay. To when kindness, laughter, and late-night talks still filled our home. Because that's how love begins, softly, like a song. And that's how it dies too, softly, until the silence becomes too heavy to bear. Amanda and I met 10 years ago at a charity fundraiser in Vancouver. I was volunteering as a host, helping to serve food to underprivileged families, and she was the events photographer. She had these curious brown eyes that seemed to see everything. Every smile, every tear, every tiny moment most people overlooked. When I spilled coffee on my shirt, she laughed, not in a cruel way, but like it was the most human thing in the world. Then she handed me a napkin and said, "You're doing great, even when you're clumsy." That was the kind of person Amanda was. Kind. Patient. Always looking for the good in people. She believed in empathy, in second chances. And for a long time, she made me believe in them too. We built a simple life together. A little apartment near Lake Ontario, a cat named Peanut, and quiet Sunday mornings spent baking blueberry pancakes. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. Until I met Ethan. Ethan was different. He was confident, bold, full of energy. He made me feel seen in a way I hadn't felt in years. Not because Amanda didn't love me, but because I had stopped loving myself. I had been feeling invisible, like I was fading behind routine, behind the safety of the life we'd built. It started with friendly texts, then coffee, then dinners that lasted too long. And then one night, it went too far. I told myself it was just once, but once became twice. And then it became something darker, something that lived in the shadows of my heart. I tried to stop. I swear I did. But when Amanda started asking where I was going, when she started looking at me with worried eyes instead of trusting ones, I panicked. That's when Ethan suggested the trip. Just a weekend, he said. You need to clear your head. Disconnect for a bit. And I did. I told Amanda I was going on a work retreat in Montreal. She believed me, of course she did. She even helped me pack. She hugged me before I left and said, "I'm proud of you for taking care of yourself." I remember feeling sick when she said that. On the drive there, Ethan kept reaching over, holding my hand, talking about the future, about what life could be like if I stopped pretending. I didn't respond much. My phone kept buzzing, Amanda checking in, sending me little hearts, asking if I'd landed safely. That's when I did it. I blocked her. I told myself it was just to stop the guilt, just so I could breathe for a while. But deep down, I knew it was because I didn't want her to see the truth. The weekend was a blur of lies and bad decisions. I tried to smile, but guilt has a way of poisoning every moment. I kept hearing her voice in my head, kind, gentle, forgiving. When I finally drove back home, the air felt heavy. I could feel something wrong before I even turned the key in the door. The apartment was too quiet. The scent of her perfume, lavender and vanilla, was gone. Then I saw the note. It was lying on the kitchen counter, folded neatly. My hands trembled as I picked it up. I could tell she'd written it in a hurry. Her handwriting was shakier than usual. I opened it, and what I read made my knees give out. I remember falling to the floor, clutching the paper, whispering her name over and over. But I can't tell you what the note said. Not yet. Because to understand what Amanda wrote, you need to understand what I did before that moment. You need to know what led her to make the choice she did. And, trust me, it wasn't just about the affair. It was about everything I had stopped seeing. Every act of kindness I'd taken for granted. Every small moment I let slip away. Because sometimes it's not the big betrayals that break people, it's the small ways we stop showing up for them. The note was the consequence. But the story, the real story, started long before that. It started with a secret I thought I could control, and a love I thought would last forever. I'll tell you what happened next, but first, tell me, where are you watching from? Because I want you to feel the story with me. Every ache, every lesson. Because if my story teaches you anything, it's this. Never block the one person who would have picked up your call, no matter what. And that day, as I sat on the kitchen floor with Amanda's note trembling in my hand, I realized the truth. The woman I loved was gone. But the reason she left wasn't just because I cheated. It was something far deeper. Something I never saw coming. The paper shook in my hands as I stared at Amanda's handwriting. Her words were written with trembling strokes, some letters darker than others, like she'd pressed too hard with the pen. The ink had smudged in one corner, as if a tear had fallen there before it dried. I wanted to read it. I wanted to see what she'd said. But a part of me was terrified to know. So I just sat there on the cold kitchen tiles, my breath shallow, my mind racing. The fridge hummed quietly. The world outside moved on like nothing had changed. But inside that apartment, time stopped. When I finally unfolded the note, my heart was pounding so loudly it drowned out every other sound. It began simply. Grace, I don't know where you really are, but I know you're not where you said you'd be. I know because I went looking for you. I know because I love you too much to just sit and wait anymore. My chest tightened. The words blurred as I blinked back tears. This isn't about anger. It's about pain. I've been feeling you slip away for months, like a candle burning out in a quiet room. I begged you to talk to me. But you kept saying you were fine. And maybe you thought I wouldn't notice. But I did. I always did. By the time I reached the bottom of the note, my hands were shaking so badly, I almost dropped it. I'm leaving, Grace. Not because I stopped loving you, but because I can't love someone who won't let me in anymore. I hope you find what you're looking for, even if it isn't me. Amanda. There was no address, no explanation of where she went. Just her wedding ring, taped to the bottom of the page. It glittered faintly in the morning light coming through the blinds. I remember whispering, "No, no, no, no." My voice cracked. It felt like the sound of my own guilt echoing back at me. I don't remember how long I sat there. Maybe hours. Maybe minutes. All I knew was that something inside me had collapsed completely. For years, I thought strength meant pretending to be okay. Smiling through the cracks. Telling people I could handle things on my own. But sitting on that floor, I realized real strength was admitting when you were the one who caused the pain. I didn't know where to go or who to call. Ethan's number flashed on my phone screen, but I couldn't answer. I threw the phone across the room, and it hit the wall with a thud. The sound startled Peanut, our cat, who darted under the couch and hissed. Even she didn't want to be near me. That night, I sat by the window, staring at the empty street. Every car that passed made my heart jump. I kept hoping maybe Amanda would come back. Maybe she just needed space. Maybe she'd walk through the door and tell me we could fix it. But deep down, I knew she wasn't coming back. Because this wasn't the first time I'd broken her trust. It wasn't an affair before, but there had been lies. Small ones. Things I'd hidden because I didn't want her to worry about money, about my job, about how lost I felt inside. But small lies grow like weeds. And by the time you notice, they've already strangled everything good around them. In the days that followed, I called her phone again and again. Straight to voicemail. Her friends said they hadn't heard from her. Her mom told me she didn't want to talk. "Grace," her mom said softly, "you need to give her space. Whatever happened, she needs time to breathe." I wanted to scream. I wanted to beg her to tell Amanda to come home. But what right did I have? I was the one who'd walked away first, just in a different way. 3 days later, I went to her favorite park near the water, the one where we used to feed ducks on Sunday mornings. It was quiet that day. I sat on our bench, the one with our initials carved underneath, and tried to remember the sound of her laugh. That's when I saw the sketchbook. It was sitting on the ground, half buried under fallen leaves. My heart stopped. I picked it up, dusted it off, and recognized it immediately. It was Amanda's. She never went anywhere without it. Inside were sketches of us, me cooking breakfast, her painting by the window, our cat sleeping in her lap. But near the back of the book, the drawings changed. There was one of me, sitting in a car, looking out the window with a blank stare. Another of me standing beside a man I didn't recognize at first, until I realized it was Ethan. She had drawn him too. My blood ran cold. How did she know? Had someone told her? Had she followed me? Or had I just been too careless, too confident that my secrets were safe? I felt my stomach twist as I flipped through the last few pages. The final drawing was of an empty apartment. No people, just shadows. And written underneath in tiny letters, "Sometimes love leaves quietly." I pressed the book to my chest and sobbed until I couldn't breathe. That was the night I realized I didn't just lose Amanda. I lost the person I was when I was with her. The next morning, I made a decision. I was going to find her. I didn't care how long it took. I was going to tell her the truth. Every last bit of it. Not to win her back, but because she deserved to hear it from me. I started small. I went to her art studio downtown, but the landlord said she'd ended the lease. I checked her mother's house, no sign. I even called her old college friends in Vancouver, but no one knew anything. It was like she'd vanished. Then one night, as I sat at the table flipping through old photos of us, my phone buzzed. An unknown number. My heart leaped. I answered immediately. "Hello." There was silence. Then a familiar voice whispered, "Stop looking for me." It was Amanda. "Amanda, please. Just talk to me." I begged. "I can't do this anymore, Grace," she said, her voice trembling. "You made your choice. I made a mistake. I can fix this. Please, just tell me where you are." "Don't." Then the line went dead. I stared at my phone, tears streaming down my face. I tried calling back, but the number was already disconnected. That was when I knew this wasn't just space. She was really gone. And just when I thought things couldn't get worse, I got a message from Ethan. It said, "We need to talk. It's important." I didn't want to. I didn't even want to hear his voice again. But something in the way he said it, urgent, serious, made me feel cold inside. I agreed to meet him the next day, at a small cafe near downtown Toronto. He was already there when I arrived, looking nervous. He didn't smile. He didn't even greet me. He just looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Grace, there's something you need to know about Amanda." And in that moment, I felt the world tilt again. Because the look in his eyes wasn't guilt. It was fear. I could tell from the moment I saw Ethan's face that something was very wrong. His skin was pale, his hands shaking slightly as he stirred his untouched coffee. The playful confidence he always had, that easy grin that once pulled me in, was gone. He looked like a man who'd seen something he couldn't unsee. "Ethan," I said quietly, sliding into the seat across from him. "What are you talking about?" What do you mean? Something I need to know about Amanda? He looked around nervously, as if afraid someone might be listening. Then he leaned in and whispered, "She found out everything before you came home." My breath caught. What do you mean she found out everything? I mean she knew about us. The trip, the lies, everything, he said. She even showed up at the hotel. The blood drained from my face. That's impossible. I would have seen her. She didn't want you to see her. His voice cracked when he said it. He ran a hand through his hair, sighing heavily. She came to the front desk, asked for you by name. The clerk told her you'd already checked in with me. She didn't say anything else. She just walked away. I felt my stomach twist into a knot. The world around me blurred. The sound of clinking cups, people laughing, the low hum of jazz music, it all faded into nothing. Amanda had been there. She'd seen the truth with her own eyes. I pressed my hands to my face, trembling. Oh my God, she saw us. Ethan nodded slowly. Grace, I tried to tell you when I realized she might have found out. I even texted you that night, but your phone was off. I closed my eyes, remembering the moment I'd blocked her. The silence that followed. The way I'd told myself it was just for peace. I hadn't just shut her out. I'd locked her out when she needed answers the most. I destroyed her, I whispered. Ethan looked down. I didn't want to be the one to tell you. But there's more. My head snapped up. More. He swallowed hard. After she left the hotel, someone followed her out. A guy in a black jacket. The clerk said she looked scared, like she knew him. She got in a taxi and left, but the guy followed in another car. I blinked, confused. What? Who? Why would anyone follow her? I don't know, Ethan said. But the clerk gave me a copy of the CCTV footage when I went back there. He said the police came by asking questions the next day. Police? I felt my throat tighten. Why would the police? Grace, he interrupted softly. Amanda never made it back home that night. I froze. For a moment, I thought I'd misheard him. What are you saying? She disappeared, he said. The police said her taxi never reached its destination. The driver dropped her off near the train station in Montreal, but after that, nothing. She vanished. My body went cold. I couldn't breathe. No, you're lying. You're lying. Grace, listen to me, he said, leaning forward. They think she might have been taken. I stood up so fast the chair fell behind me. People turned to stare, but I didn't care. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. You're telling me Amanda's missing? For days, and you didn't think to tell me sooner. I didn't know for sure, Ethan said, his voice desperate. I thought she'd just left. But the cops found her sketchbook near the station, torn apart, pages scattered. I only found out yesterday. I felt the room spinning. My knees weakened, and I grabbed the table for balance. No, she can't be missing. She called me, Ethan. She called me 2 days ago. She told me to stop looking for her. Ethan looked at me like I'd said something impossible. What? She called me. Her voice, it was her. He shook his head slowly. That can't be Grace. The police said her phone's been off since the night she left. The air in the cafe grew heavy. I could barely hear him anymore. All I could hear was the echo of Amanda's voice in my memory. Stop looking for me. You made your choice. Was it even her? Or was someone pretending to be her? I stumbled out of the cafe, the world tilting under my feet. Ethan followed me, trying to explain, but I couldn't focus. My hands were shaking so violently I dropped my keys twice before I finally made it into my car. When I finally started the engine, I just sat there, staring at the steering wheel, my thoughts racing. If Amanda had been followed, if she never made it back home, then who called me? And how did they know what to say? That night, I couldn't sleep. I replayed the conversation over and over again in my head, her soft tone, the way she'd said my name. It sounded like her, but there had been something off. Something distant. Like it wasn't really her. The next morning, I went to the police. The officer at the desk looked at me calmly as I told him everything. The affair, the hotel, the phone call, the sketchbook. I expected judgment, maybe disgust. But instead, he just nodded and said, You should have come sooner. They showed me photos, one of Amanda leaving the hotel, another blurry image of a man behind her. His face was hidden beneath a hood. Do you recognize him? The officer asked. I shook my head, my throat dry. He sighed. We think she may have been lured or threatened. We're checking train and taxi records, but so far, no trace. When I got home, I sat in our bedroom, her side of the bed untouched, her clothes still gone. On the nightstand, I noticed something I hadn't seen before, a small folded piece of paper wedged behind the lamp. My heart jumped. I reached for it with trembling fingers. It wasn't a letter this time, it was a receipt. From a train ticket, purchased 2 days after she'd left. Destination, Ottawa. Name, A. Walker. She hadn't been taken, she'd left. On her own. But why would she call me, then vanish again? Why go to Ottawa? I stared at the ticket, my mind spinning. That was when I noticed something written in pen along the edge of the receipt, a faint note I almost missed. It said, if you love me, don't follow me. But if you truly understand me, you'll know where to find me. My pulse quickened. I read it again and again, searching for meaning. I didn't understand. I didn't know where she wanted me to go or what she meant. But one thing was certain. She was still alive. And she wanted me to find her in my own way. That night, I packed a small bag and sat in the car, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. I didn't know what I'd find in Ottawa. I didn't even know if I was chasing a ghost. But I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't stop now. Because the truth, whatever it was waiting for me there. And as I drove off into the dark, headlights cutting through the rain, I felt something shift deep inside me. This wasn't just about guilt anymore. It was about survival. And something told me, the next time I saw Amanda, nothing would ever be the same again. The drive from Toronto to Ottawa felt endless. Rain poured against the windshield, the wipers scraping rhythmically like a heartbeat I couldn't calm. Every few miles, I thought about turning back. But then I'd picture Amanda's face, the way she'd smile when she saw something beautiful, how she used to hum softly when she painted, and my chest would tighten. I couldn't stop now. Not until I knew the truth. By the time I reached Ottawa, it was past midnight. The city was quiet, its streets slick with rain. I parked outside a small motel near the downtown bus terminal, the kind of place that looked like it hadn't been renovated since the 90s. The neon sign flickered, vacancy. The clerk, a tired man with thick glasses, handed me a key without asking questions. I tried to sleep, but my mind wouldn't rest. I kept replaying her note in my head. If you love me, don't follow me. But if you truly understand me, you'll know where to find me. What did she mean by understand? Amanda used to say that art wasn't just something she did, it was how she spoke when words failed her. Maybe she'd left me a message somewhere hidden in plain sight. The next morning I started searching. I went to every art studio, every gallery she used to talk about. I showed her photo to people, asked if they'd seen her. Most shook their heads. But one woman, a gallery owner named Leah, paused when she saw the picture. Yes, Leah said slowly. She came by 2 days ago. She was looking for a place to display her work. She said she wanted to show something honest. Honest. I repeated, confused. Leah nodded. She left a painting here. Said she'd come back for it soon. It's in the back room if you want to see. My heart raced as Leah led me into a dimly lit room. And there it was, Amanda's work. I'd recognize her brushstrokes anywhere. The painting showed a woman sitting in front of a broken mirror. One side of her reflection smiled, bright and whole. The other was shadowed, cracked, staring back with empty eyes. And in the bottom corner, Amanda had written one word in small, sharp letters. Grace. I covered my mouth. It wasn't just a painting, it was a message. A confession. Leah looked at me gently. She seemed sad when she dropped it off. Said she had to do this to free someone. I didn't know what she meant. I stood there, unable to speak. The longer I looked at the painting, the clearer it became. She wasn't just talking about freeing me. She was freeing herself from me, from everything we'd become. When I left the gallery, the sky had turned gray again. I walked along the cold streets, Amanda's name echoing in my mind. That's when I saw a familiar shape across the street, a small art cafe called The Quiet Canvas. We'd been there once, years ago. It was where Amanda first told me she loved me. My hands trembled as I pushed open the door. The smell of espresso and paint hit me instantly. Behind the counter, a young barista smiled. "Hey, can I help you?" I held up Amanda's photo. "Have you seen her?" The girl squinted, then nodded slowly. "Yeah, she was here last night. Said she was waiting for someone." "Did she say who?" She shook her head. "No, but she left this." The barista reached under the counter and handed me an envelope. My name, Grace, was written on it in Amanda's handwriting. My heart pounded as I opened it. Inside was a small note. "You still don't understand, but you will soon. Go to the place where we promised forever." My throat tightened. The place where we promised forever. There was only one place she could mean, the old cabin by Lake Simcoe. It was where we'd exchanged our vows in a private ceremony before our wedding. I dropped everything and got back in the car. The rain had stopped, but the wind had picked up. My heart wouldn't slow down. As I drove north, the clouds parted just enough for the moonlight to shine on the empty road ahead. I didn't know what I'd find at the cabin, but I could feel it deep in my bones. Amanda was waiting. The cabin sat hidden behind a wall of pines, just like I remembered. The wooden steps creaked under my feet as I walked up to the porch. The air smelled of damp earth and pine needles. Everything looked the same, except the light. There was a faint glow coming from inside. Someone was there. My hands shook as I turned the knob. The door creaked open, and I stepped inside. The fire in the fireplace was dying, but still burning. And sitting at the small wooden table was Amanda. My heart nearly stopped. She looked thinner, paler, her hair pulled into a messy bun. But her eyes, those deep brown eyes I'd fallen in love with, still carried the same quiet strength. "Amanda?" I whispered. She looked up slowly. "You came." I took a step forward. "You left me no choice." Amanda sighed softly. "I told you not to follow me, Grace." "I know. But you disappeared. I thought you were gone." She finished the sentence for me, her voice calm, almost distant. Maybe I was. In a way. I wanted to run to her, to hold her. But something in her eyes stopped me. She looked broken. But not angry. Just tired. "Why are you here?" I asked quietly. "Why the note? Why all this?" Amanda stared into the fire. "Because I needed you to feel what I felt. To understand what silence does to someone. You shut me out long before you blocked my number, Grace." Her words hit like a knife. "I didn't mean to." "I know," she said softly. "You never mean to. But meaning doesn't undo damage." I felt tears spill down my cheeks. "I'm sorry. For everything. The lies, the affair, the pain. I'll do anything to make it right." Amanda looked up then, her gaze sharp. "Would you tell the truth? Even if it destroys everything?" "Yes," I said without hesitation. She nodded slowly. "Then sit down." I did. My hands trembled as I waited for her to speak. Amanda reached into her bag and pulled out a small folder. Inside were photos, pictures of her, pictures of me, and pictures of Ethan. "How did you get these?" I whispered. "I had someone follow you," she said simply. "I didn't trust you anymore. And I needed proof before I could walk away." My chest burned with shame. "Amanda, I'm not mad that you cheated, Grace." Her voice broke. "I'm mad that you stopped talking to me. That you made me feel like I wasn't worth the truth." I looked at her, stunned. She stood up, walking toward the door. "I'm leaving again. But this time, it's not out of pain. It's because I've finally made peace with it." "Where will you go?" I asked, panic creeping in. She turned, her expression soft. "Somewhere quiet. Somewhere I can remember the good parts without the hurt." "Amanda, please don't go. Let me fix this." She smiled sadly. "Some things aren't meant to be fixed, Grace. They're meant to be learned from." And before I could say another word, she walked out into the night. I ran after her, but when I stepped outside, she was gone. her car, her footsteps, everything. All that was left on the porch was her wedding ring, again. But this time there was something else next to it. A flash drive. I picked it up, heart pounding. When I plugged it into my laptop back inside the cabin, a video started to play. Amanda appeared on the screen, her eyes red from crying. "Grace," she said softly. "If you're watching this, it means I've already left. I needed to tell you one last thing, something I never said before." She paused, her lips trembling. And then she whispered words that changed everything. I was pregnant. The world went silent. I froze, staring at the screen as Amanda's voice echoed through the cabin. She took a deep breath. "I was going to tell you that night, the night you said you were going to Montreal. I thought maybe it would bring us back together. But when I found out where you really were, something inside me broke. I couldn't bring a child into that kind of love." My heart shattered. She looked down, tears streaming down her face. "I lost the baby a week later. The doctors said it was stress. Maybe it was. Maybe it was me holding on too tight to something that was already gone." I dropped to my knees, covering my mouth as sobs tore through me. On screen, Amanda wiped her eyes and whispered, "I'm not telling you this to hurt you. I just need you to know what your silence cost." The video ended. I sat there for what felt like forever, shaking, broken. Everything I'd done, every choice, every lie, it all came crashing down. She'd been carrying our child. And I never knew. That night, I couldn't sleep. I replayed every moment of our life together. The laughter, the promises, the little acts of kindness I'd taken for granted. I finally understood what she meant by understanding her. It wasn't about finding her physically. It was about finally seeing her heart. The next morning, I drove back to Toronto. Ethan called me twice, but I didn't answer. There was nothing left to say. When I reached home, I walked straight to Amanda's old studio. The walls were bare, except for one last canvas she'd left behind, turned backward against the wall. I flipped it over and gasped. It was a painting of a child's hand reaching out from a swirl of colors, almost touching two larger hands that never quite met. At the bottom, she'd written, "Forgive yourself." That was the moment I finally broke completely and began to heal. But just when I thought the story was over, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside, there was only one sentence. "You still have one more truth to face." And beneath it, a train ticket. Destination, Vancouver. I didn't want to go, but something in that note pulled me west. I packed a small bag, boarded the train, and watched the Ontario countryside fade into the distance. The farther I traveled, the more I felt Amanda's presence, like she was guiding me toward something. When I arrived in Vancouver, the air smelled of salt and rain. I wandered through the city until I found myself standing outside a small art therapy center. A wooden sign above the door read, "Second Chances Studio." Inside, the walls were covered with paintings, some bright, some dark, all raw. A woman at the desk smiled. "Can I help you?" "I'm looking for someone, Amanda Walker," I said softly. Her expression softened. "You must be Grace." My heart skipped. "You know me?"
She talked about you.
"She said if you ever came, to give you this." The woman handed me a sealed envelope. My hands shook as I opened it. "Grace, if you're reading this, it means you finally listened to your heart. I'm not hiding anymore. I'm living, helping others heal the way I couldn't. You don't need to find me. I'm right where I belong. But if you ever truly forgive yourself, maybe one day, you'll walk through that door not to look for me, but to join me. Until then, take care of your light. Amanda." Tears blurred my vision. I looked around the studio, at the faces of people painting quietly, and I realized what she'd built here, a place for broken people to find peace. I left the letter on the desk and walked outside. The sky had turned orange with sunset, and for the first time in years, I felt something warm inside me.
Hope.
But as I turned to leave, a familiar voice said softly behind me, "Grace." I froze. Slowly, I turned around. Amanda stood there, holding a paintbrush, her eyes glistening. Neither of us spoke for a long time. Then, finally, she smiled. "You found me." For a long moment, we just stood there, the air thick with everything left unsaid. Then Amanda stepped forward, her expression calm but cautious. "You look different," she said softly. "I am," I replied. "You are too." We stood in silence, letting the waves of the past settle between us. "I wasn't sure you'd ever come," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I almost didn't," I admitted. "But I had to tell you. I'm sorry. For everything. For lying. For not seeing you. For not listening." Amanda's eyes softened. "I know. And I forgave you a long time ago." I blinked back tears. "Then why didn't you come back?" "Because forgiveness doesn't always mean going back," she said. "Sometimes it means moving forward separately." Her words hurt, but they also brought peace. "I built this place for people like us," she continued. "People who've been broken, but still want to create something beautiful from the pieces." She handed me a blank canvas. "Start here," she whispered. I stared at the white space before me, the possibilities endless. For the first time in a long time, I felt something I hadn't felt since before the lies: purpose. I dipped a brush into blue paint and made my first stroke. Amanda smiled. We didn't need to be what we were before. We didn't need to fix what had shattered. We just needed to heal. And maybe, just maybe, love didn't have to end. It just had to change. As the evening light poured through the window, Amanda looked at me one last time and said, "You finally understand." And I did. Because love isn't about possession or perfection. It's about kindness. It's about showing up when it's hardest. And though we would never be the same again, we were both free. That night, as I walked out of the studio, the air felt lighter. I looked up at the sky, whispered a quiet thank you, and smiled. Amanda had found peace. And for the first time, so had I. It had been 3 months since that day at the art studio in Vancouver. 3 months since I saw Amanda again, alive, calm, and finally free. After that day, we didn't talk much. No calls, no long messages, no promises. Just a quiet understanding that we both needed to live differently now. Still, every morning I woke up thinking about her, wondering if she was painting, if she'd laughed that day, if she'd thought of me too. I stayed in Vancouver for a while. I rented a small apartment near the water and started volunteering at the Second Chances studio, helping people paint through their pain just like Amanda did. I wasn't there because I wanted to win her back. I was there because I wanted to understand why she stayed, why she built this place, and what it meant to finally forgive. Sometimes she was there, sometimes she wasn't. On the days she came in, she'd nod at me with a soft smile and say, "Morning, Grace." It was simple, gentle, human. One day, during a quiet afternoon class, I watched her teaching a young man who'd lost his sister. She spoke to him the same way she used to speak to me. Calm, patient, kind. That's when I realized something. I wasn't jealous. I wasn't aching or angry anymore. I was proud of her. When the class ended, she walked over to me, holding 2 cups of coffee. "Still painting in blues," she teased, nodding at my canvas. I smiled faintly. Maybe I'm still figuring out my colors. Amanda laughed softly, sitting beside me. "You're getting better. Your work feels a lighter." "I think that's because I finally let go of guilt," I said quietly. She turned to me, her eyes softening. "Good. You carried it too long." There was a silence between us then, not the heavy, suffocating kind from before, but something peaceful. After a moment, Amanda said, "Do you remember what you told me the day we got married?" I smiled faintly. "That I'd never let us drift apart." She nodded. "And do you remember what I told you?" "That love only lasts if you water it with truth." Amanda chuckled. "You remembered." "Of course I did," I said. "It just took me a while to understand it." She looked down, stirring her coffee. "Grace, I don't know what the future holds, but I want you to know I'm happy now, and I hope you are too. Her words were kind, but they carried a quiet finality. I felt a lump in my throat, but forced a smile. I am. She stood up, her hand brushing mine briefly, a familiar touch, warm and fleeting. That's good, she said softly. That's all I ever wanted. Then she walked away. I watched her go, knowing that maybe this was how it was meant to be, not a reunion, but a release. Still, as I sat there staring at my canvas, I noticed something strange. On the corner of the table, she'd left her ring, the same wedding ring she'd taken off twice before. This time, though, there was something written inside it. Tiny words carved so small I almost missed them. Begin again. And somehow, I knew that's exactly what she wanted me to do. That night, I walked by the water, the city lights reflecting in the waves. For the first time in years, I didn't feel haunted by what I'd done. I felt human. I took a deep breath, whispered into the cold night air. Thank you, Amanda. I didn't know it yet, but that was the last time I'd see her. A week later, I came to the studio and Leah, the manager, told me Amanda had left town again, this time to open another branch of Second Chances in Seattle. She hadn't said goodbye to anyone, just left a note for the staff that said, "Keep helping people see beauty in the broken." I smiled when Leah told me. It was so very Amanda to leave quietly with grace. And even though it hurt a little, I felt proud, because the woman who once cried in silence was now helping others heal their pain. That night, I stood by the window in my apartment, looking out at the city lights, and I realized something important. Sometimes, love isn't meant to stay. Sometimes it's meant to teach you how to be better for the next person, or even just for yourself. I had been unfaithful. I had been selfish. But from that pain, I had learned what love truly was: kindness, truth, and the courage to start over. Still, life had one more surprise waiting for me. Because the next morning, when I went to open the studio for class, there was a small package waiting on the doorstep. No return address, just my name written in Amanda's handwriting. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a single photograph, Amanda standing on a beach, holding a small child in her arms. On the back, she'd written,
"He's not yours by blood,
but you helped me find the strength to bring him into this world. Thank you for setting me free." I felt tears stream down my face. Amanda had adopted. She'd created the family we never got to have, and she'd done it with the same love she'd once given me. It didn't break me.
It healed me.
Because in that moment, I realized something beautiful. I wasn't part of her story anymore, but I had helped shape it. And that was enough. A year later, I stood at the edge of the same lake where Amanda and I had once said our vows. The air was crisp, the water calm. In my hand, I held her last ring, the one engraved with "Begin Again." I'd worn it every day since she sent that photo, not as a symbol of our marriage, but as a reminder of everything I'd learned. Beside me, a small boy played in the grass, tossing pebbles into the water.
His name was Eli.
He was from the foster center I'd started volunteering at after Amanda left. He ran up to me, smiling wide. "Miss Grace."
Look.
My rock skipped 2 times. I laughed softly. "That's amazing, Eli. You're getting better." He grinned. "You promised to teach me how to paint next time." "And I will," I said. "We'll start with blue. It's my favorite color." He nodded excitedly and ran off again. As I watched him play, I felt Amanda's presence again, soft, like sunlight through clouds. Her words echoed in my mind. Begin again. I finally understood what she meant. We don't get to rewrite our past, but we do get to choose how we carry it. Love doesn't always end with 2 people staying together. Sometimes it ends with them becoming better people apart. Amanda had her second chance, and now I had mine. I took off the ring and tossed it gently into the water. It made a soft splash, disappearing beneath the ripples. Then I whispered, "Goodbye, Amanda. Thank you for loving me enough to leave." The wind carried my words away. I looked up at the sky, took a deep breath, and smiled. Somewhere out there, Amanda was painting. Somewhere out there, she was happy. And for the first time in my life, so was I. Because even after everything, every lie, every tear, every moment of heartbreak, our story had ended the only way it could, with peace. And maybe that's what love really is. Not forever, but freedom.